Well, you know what, honestly, I realized it when we were doing Cheers that there was something great there. What's funny is, Shelley Long decided she was going to leave the show in the 5th season.
Kelsey Grammer spent years playing one of TV's most beloved characters, but behind the scenes, there was a co-star he really couldn't stand. So what happened between them? Why did it go so far? Stick around as we uncover the shocking details you didn't know about Kelsey Grammer's time on Cheers and the co-star he truly hated. The magic of Cheers and Frasier Crane. When Cheers premiered on NBC in 1982, no one could have predicted the kind of impact it would have on television history. Set in a small bar in Boston where everybody knows your name, the show quickly won over audiences with its warm, witty writing and lovable characters. It became more than just a sitcom. It turned into a pop culture staple that ran for 11 seasons and collected dozens of awards, including multiple Emmys. At the heart of the show in the early years were Sam Malone and Diane Chambers, played by Ted Danson and Shelley Long. Sam, a former baseball player turned bartender, was charming and street smart. Diane, on the other hand, was highly educated and often came across as snobbish. From the beginning, the show focused on their clashing personalities and their slow-burning romance. Their on-again, off-again relationship became one of the defining storylines of the series, driving much of its early success. In the 3rd season of Cheers, producers decided to shake things up by introducing a new character, Dr. Frasier Crane. Played by Kelsey Grammer, Frasier was originally meant to appear in just 3 episodes. He was introduced as a new love interest for Diane, someone intelligent and refined who shared more of her worldview than Sam ever could. It seemed like a short-term twist to the love triangle between Sam and Diane, but something unexpected happened. Frasier quickly caught the attention of the audience and the show's creators. Grammer's performance gave Frasier a life beyond the script. He wasn't just a romantic rival or a throwaway character. He was clever, sometimes awkward, and had a unique charm that made people want more of him. The producers noticed how well Frasier fit into the group and how naturally he added a new flavor to the bar's mix of personalities. By the end of the season, it was clear that Frasier wasn't going anywhere. What started as a temporary role turned into one of the show's most enduring characters. Frasier helped broaden the world of Cheers, and his popularity would eventually launch one of the most successful spin-offs in TV history. Kelsey Grammer's performance was a big reason for Frasier's popularity. He brought a lot of depth to the role. What could have been a boring or one-note character became someone complex and interesting. Grammer knew how to play both serious and silly moments, and he did it in a way that felt natural. As the seasons went on, writers gave Frasier more backstory and more chances to show different sides of his personality. He wasn't just Diane's boyfriend anymore. He was a fully developed character with his own struggles, opinions, and friendships. By the time Cheers ended, producers knew there was more to explore with Frasier. The audience had already built a strong connection with him, and Grammer had proven he could lead a show. So when the idea for a spin-off came up, it made sense. The character had grown far beyond his original purpose and was ready for a new setting and new stories. And speaking of Frasier's rise, wait until you hear what really happened behind the scenes when he started to steal the spotlight. A clash of characters and egos. As Cheers evolved from season to season,
Cheers is filmed before a live studio audience.
the cast also grew, with new characters entering the familiar bar setting. One of the biggest changes came when Kelsey Grammer joined the show as Frasier Crane.
Yes, hello, this is Dr. Frasier Crane. I have a reservation tonight, and I'm calling to inquire about your minimum dress code.
His character was originally supposed to appear for just a few episodes, mainly as a love interest for Diane Chambers. But what started as a short role quickly turned into something much bigger, and that change didn't sit well with everyone. Frasier and Diane were more alike than different. Both characters were highly educated, used big words, and had strong opinions about art, culture, and human behavior. They were both portrayed as being a little out of place in the casual bar setting of Cheers. That overlap didn't go unnoticed, especially by Shelley Long. According to several reports and accounts from the time, Long began to feel that Frasier's presence on the show was stepping into her territory. She allegedly thought the writers were giving him lines and moments that could have easily gone to her character instead. It wasn't just about screen time, it was about identity. Diane had always been the intellectual voice of the group, but now there was someone else who filled that same role. Long reportedly voiced her frustrations to the producers.
Cheers, and they harp on that. Did that ever get you down? And were there ever moments when you regretted that decision at all?
No, I've never regretted the decision.
She is said to have expressed concern that her character was becoming less unique and less essential to the storyline. With Frasier becoming more central, Diane no longer had the same contrast with the rest of the cast. In her view, that made her role feel a bit redundant. While no public confrontations were confirmed at the time, people close to the show have said that the tension behind the scenes was real. It became clear that Long was unhappy with how the dynamic was shifting, and that unhappiness may have affected the working environment during filming. Grammer opens up in his memoir. Years later, Kelsey Grammer opened up about what was really going on during his early days on Cheers. In his 1995 memoir, So Far, he talked about the unexpected extension of his role and offered a surprising explanation. According to Grammer, the producers chose to keep Frasier on the show not just because audiences liked him, but also to irritate Shelley Long. He claimed that the behind-the-scenes frustrations with Long had reached a point where the creative team thought it would be funny, or at least satisfying, to keep Frasier around longer than planned just to get under her skin. Grammer didn't hold back in the book. He said plainly that Shelley Long didn't like him. He believed that her dislike was both professional and personal. From his point of view, the tension wasn't just about characters on a script. It was about real feelings that existed when the cameras weren't rolling. He wrote that Long seemed annoyed not only by Frasier's presence, but also by Grammer himself. Whether it was due to clashing personalities, different working styles, or the overlap in their character traits, the two didn't get along well on set. This tension may have unexpectedly helped Grammer's character become a permanent part of the show. While the producers have since denied that they kept him on just to bother Long, Grammer's performance clearly made an impact. It's possible that what began as a reaction to conflict actually turned into a great creative decision. Frasier brought a new energy to Cheers, and his relationships with the other characters developed in ways that added more depth to the show. As Long became more frustrated, Grammer's role kept growing, and as the seasons continued, Frasier went from being Diane's boyfriend to a key part of the Cheers family. In the end, the feud between Grammer and Long may have helped shape one of the most successful character arcs in television history. What could have been a short guest role became a defining performance for Kelsey Grammer, one that would last decades and lead to his own show. Producer Ken Lavines' rebuttal. After Kelsey Grammer's memoir brought attention to the behind-the-scenes drama on Cheers, one of the show's key producers, Ken Lavine, stepped in to offer his perspective. Lavine had worked closely with the cast and writers during the time when Frasier Crane was introduced. In his view, the idea that Grammer's character was kept on the show simply to annoy Shelley Long wasn't true. He strongly defended Long, calling her professional, hardworking, and deeply committed to the show. Lavine believed the narrative of petty conflict had been exaggerated. According to Lavine, the real reason for keeping Frasier on the show had everything to do with Kelsey Grammer's talent. The writers saw something special in his performance. Even though Frasier was initially introduced as a short-term romantic interest for Diane, Grammer's comedic timing, charm, and intelligence quickly made him stand out. The creative team recognized that Frasier added a unique voice to the ensemble, and the audience responded positively. Ratings held strong, and viewers were clearly enjoying his presence. So rather than remove a character who was working well, the producers chose to keep building on his role. Lavine also addressed the idea that there was bad blood between Long and Grammer. He admitted that there may have been some tension, something that can happen on any long-running show, but denied that it was personal or mean-spirited. From his point of view, what really mattered was the success of the show and the quality of the work. And on that front, both actors delivered, even if their styles or personalities didn't always match off-camera. Long's departure. While rumors swirled about backstage drama, Shelley Long gave her own reasons for leaving Cheers after 5 successful seasons. In public interviews and later reflections, Long said she felt it was time to move on. She talked about feeling creatively tired and worried about being typecast. Diane Chambers was a big character, and Long feared that staying too long in the same role might make it hard for her to take on different types of projects in the future. She wanted to try new things, including film and theater. Long also mentioned that she felt some fans misunderstood Diane. While she played Diane as witty, idealistic, and sometimes naive, not everyone appreciated those qualities. Some viewers found the character annoying or pretentious, which bothered Long. She believed there was more depth to Diane than people realized, and she felt like she had taken the role as far as she could. Diane's departure from Cheers was a major shift. She had been one of the show's main characters from the beginning, and her love-hate relationship with Sam Malone had driven much of the early storyline. Removing Diane meant the writers had to rethink the show's direction. They chose not to kill her off, but instead wrote her out in a way that allowed for the possibility of a return. Her exit opened the door for a new character to be introduced, and that's when Rebecca Howe, played by Kirstie Alley, joined the cast. Rebecca was very different from Diane. Where Diane was romantic and intellectual, Rebecca was ambitious, confident, and more grounded in the business side of running the bar. Her energy changed the show's dynamic in a big way. Instead of repeating the same type of character, the producers made a bold choice to go in a new direction, and it worked. Kirstie Alley brought fresh energy to Cheers, and the show remained popular, showing that it could evolve without losing its core appeal. Looking back, it's easy to see how both Shelley Long and Kelsey Grammer could have valid feelings about what was happening on set. For Long, the introduction of Frasier Crane may have felt like a threat to her character's importance. Diane had been one of the smartest voices in the room, and now there was someone else playing a similar role. It's understandable that she might have felt pushed aside or creatively limited. She was also a serious actor with strong opinions, and that could sometimes lead to disagreements or frustrations. On the other hand, Grammer was simply doing his job, and doing it well. His character clicked with audiences, and he added something valuable to the show. It's not unusual for supporting characters to grow beyond their original purpose if they connect with viewers. Grammer's version of events may have been shaped by his own experiences and frustrations, especially if he felt unwelcome or misjudged by Long. But whether or not the producers kept him on to annoy her, the truth remains that his talent helped him earn a permanent spot on the cast. In the end, the tension, whether minor or major, didn't ruin the show. In fact, it may have helped push the writers to be more creative, to take risks, and to find new ways to develop the characters. Diane's exit gave the show a second life, and Frasier's rise helped lay the foundation for an entirely new series. A new chapter with Rebecca. When Shelley Long left Cheers in 1987, the show faced a significant challenge: how to replace the character of Diane Chambers, who had been such a central part of the series. The producers made the bold decision to introduce a new character, Rebecca Howe, played by Kirstie Alley. This marked the beginning of a new chapter for the show. Rebecca was introduced as a tough, ambitious, and often neurotic woman, and her arrival created a shift in the dynamics of the show. Where Diane had been the romantic and intellectual foil to Sam Malone, Rebecca brought a fresh energy, one that was often characterized by her awkwardness, insecurities, and her constant attempts to climb the corporate ladder. While the romantic tension between Sam and Diane had been a driving force on the show, Rebecca's character was less about romance and more about personal struggles and workplace ambitions. The change in Rebecca's role wasn't just about her character. It also influenced the relationships with other characters. Sam's interactions with Rebecca were often filled with comedic tension, as she was initially portrayed as someone out of his league, yet still very much trying to assert her authority over him in the bar. With her arrival, Cheers took on a slightly different tone, but still managed to keep the core humor intact. Fans were unsure at first whether she could replace Diane, but as the show went on, Rebecca became an integral part of Cheers, bringing her own brand of humor to the mix. Off-screen, the chemistry between Kirstie Alley and Kelsey Grammer was just as strong as their on-screen presence. As the two worked together, their comedic timing was evident, and it was clear that they shared a genuine friendship. In interviews, both actors often spoke highly of each other, praising one another's work ethic and talent. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable. Kelsey and Kirsty's interactions as Frasier and Rebecca became a key part of the later seasons of Cheers. Their banter was sharp, and their characters played off each other's strengths and weaknesses, leading to some of the most memorable moments of the show. Kelsey's dry, intellectual humor paired perfectly with Kirsty's more grounded and emotional approach to comedy, creating a delightful contrast. The way they supported and uplifted each other both professionally and personally helped to build the rapport that made their scenes together so enjoyable for viewers. In interviews, they frequently commented on how easy it was to work together. Kirsty, in particular, admired Kelsey's dedication to his craft. She often shared how much she appreciated his professionalism, while Kelsey spoke about how much he respected Kirsty's ability to bring authenticity and humor to every scene. Their friendship extended beyond the set as well, with the two maintaining a bond throughout the years, despite the show's end. While Kirsty and Kelsey's friendship was one rooted in shared laughter and professional respect, it was also one of mutual support during difficult times. Kelsey Grammer's personal life was marked by several struggles, including a tumultuous period in the late 90s and early 2000s when he dealt with legal and personal issues, including the tragic death of his sister. During these challenging times, Kirstie Alley was a constant source of support for him. She offered both emotional encouragement and practical help, proving to be not just a colleague but a true friend. Saying goodbye. The bond between Kelsey Grammer and Kirstie Alley continued until Kirstie's death in 2022. Her passing was a significant loss for Kelsey, who mourned the death of his dear friend deeply. In the wake of her death, Kelsey paid tribute to Kirstie, sharing emotional recollections of their time together. He expressed regret about not being able to meet up with her one final time, a missed opportunity that weighed heavily on him. However, he also spoke with immense gratitude for the time they had shared both on and off the set of Cheers. Kelsey's tribute was heartfelt, and his grief was clear. He recalled the many years of friendship and professional collaboration, remembering Kirstie not just as a co-worker, but as someone who had profoundly impacted his life. He shared that his love and admiration for her had always remained, and that the bond they had was not just a fleeting one, it was a deep connection that spanned decades. Despite the busy lives they led after Cheers, Kelsey and Kirstie had remained close, and his final words in tribute to her reflected that enduring affection. His heartfelt tribute was a reminder of the importance of cherishing those relationships that bring joy and support, especially when faced with difficult times. In a touching final message, Kelsey reflected on how Kirstie had always been there for him. He acknowledged her authenticity and the deep bond they had shared, expressing his sorrow at her passing, but also celebrating the beautiful memories they had created together. Kelsey's words showed the strength of their friendship and the impact that Kirstie had on his life. Next, we'll get into how Frasier's story moved from the Boston bar to a brand new city, with a brand new show that would make TV history all over again. The Forgotten Feud. When people think about Cheers, they often picture a group of actors who got along well and created something special together. For the most part, that was true. Ted Danson, who played Sam Malone, and Kelsey Grammer, who played Frasier Crane, worked closely for years on set. Their characters interacted often, and both were major parts of what made the show so successful. Behind the scenes, they seemed like colleagues who respected each other. But what many fans didn't know for a long time was that Danson and Grammer had a falling out, one that would lead to a 30-year silence between the two men. The cause of this long stretch of distance wasn't a dramatic blow-up or a big public fight. It was something more private and in many ways more personal. In his later interviews and memoirs, Kelsey Grammer opened up about his struggles during the Cheers years. He was battling alcoholism and often showed up to work unprepared. This wasn't just a one-time issue. It became a pattern that frustrated his co-stars and affected the quality of his work. While the audience at home may not have noticed, those on set did. Ted Danson, known for being professional and focused, was one of the people who took issue with Grammer's behavior. According to Grammer, Danson was disappointed not only in the lack of preparation, but also in the way it disrupted the work environment. Grammer has admitted he was not in a good place during those years, and it affected the way he treated his job and the people around him. That period of his life, he now says, was marked by a lot of regret. The tension between Danson and Grammer eventually came to a head. It wasn't a loud argument or a heated exchange in front of the crew. Instead, it was a more personal moment, one that stuck with both men for decades. At one point during the filming of Cheers, Danson quietly pulled Grammer aside and confronted him about his lack of professionalism. He pointed out that Kelsey wasn't showing up fully prepared and that it was hurting the work they were all trying to do. That conversation may have seemed simple on the surface, but for Grammer, it hit hard. He has since said that Danson's words stayed with him and left a lasting impression. He knew deep down that Danson was right. The confrontation didn't lead to a dramatic change right away, but it marked a turning point in how Grammer viewed his own actions. At the same time, the talk also put a wall between them. After that, their relationship cooled off, and they didn't keep in touch. For nearly 30 years, the two former co-stars barely spoke. They went their separate ways, both becoming TV legends in their own right. But underneath all the success was a quiet, unresolved moment that had shaped their friendship and kept it on pause for decades. Behind the drinking. Kelsey Grammer has been very open in recent years about the challenges he faced during the time he worked on Cheers. What many fans didn't see while watching him bring Frasier Crane to life was the serious personal struggle happening behind the scenes. During much of his run on the show, Kelsey was dealing with addiction, particularly alcohol and later drugs. While he was still able to perform and deliver strong comedic moments, his private life was falling apart, and it eventually began to affect everything around him, including his relationships with the people he worked with. Grammer has admitted in interviews and in his memoir that his drinking became a major problem during the height of Cheers. At first, he was able to manage both his career and his addiction, but as time went on, things started to slip. He began showing up to work unprepared, sometimes hungover or not in the right state of mind to perform at his best. This behavior didn't go unnoticed. While the show's writers and producers continued to give him great material, it became harder for his co-stars to rely on him in the same way. His issues with alcohol didn't just make him less dependable on set, they also created distance between him and the rest of the cast. While some of his colleagues may have tried to be supportive, others found it difficult to work with someone who wasn't giving his all. Ted Danson, in particular, grew frustrated with Grammer's lack of preparation and focus. Their professional relationship, which had once been steady, became strained. Over time, this tension turned into silence, and the two men barely spoke for years. Grammer has said that his drinking was tied to much deeper pain. He experienced a lot of trauma early in life, including the tragic deaths of close family members. These losses left emotional scars that he carried into adulthood. Rather than face the pain directly, he turned to alcohol as a way to numb it. Unfortunately, that coping mechanism led to even more problems, especially as his fame grew and the pressure of constant performance weighed on him. Despite all this, Grammer never blamed anyone else for what happened. In his reflections, he has taken responsibility for the way his actions affected others. He's acknowledged that he let people down and hurt relationships that mattered to him. He's also shared that these difficult years helped him learn hard lessons, not just about addiction, but about how important it is to take care of your mental and emotional well-being, especially when you're in the spotlight. Kelsey's road to recovery would take time, and so would the mending of broken friendships. But this part of his life, as painful as it was, became a turning point that shaped who he is today. The 2024 reconciliation. In 2024, fans of Cheers were given a truly emotional moment that few could have expected. After nearly 3 decades of silence between Kelsey Grammer and Ted Danson, the two actors reunited for a joint appearance on SiriusXM's Table for Two podcast. What started as a friendly interview turned into something much deeper. It became a rare, honest look at two people facing the past with openness, vulnerability, and warmth. Listeners were surprised and moved when the conversation shifted toward their time on Cheers and the unspoken tension that had existed between them for years. Danson was the first to bring it up. In a heartfelt tone, he admitted that he had carried guilt about how things had gone between them. He explained that during those years he didn't fully understand what Grammer was going through. Looking back, he realized that his frustration came more from concern than anger, and he wished he had handled it differently. He said he regretted not reaching out sooner and acknowledged how tough those years must have been for Kelsey. Grammer didn't hold any bitterness. Instead, his response was filled with warmth and understanding. He accepted Danson's apology with grace and shared that he never stopped caring about him. He acknowledged that at the time he had been struggling deeply and wasn't able to be the friend or colleague that he wanted to be. Then came a quote that quickly made headlines and touched hearts everywhere. This short sentence captured years of friendship, distance, and healing all at once. It showed that even after so much time, the bond they once shared had not been lost. For fans of Cheers, it was emotional to witness these two actors, so connected on screen, come full circle in real life. It wasn't about drama or blame. It was about understanding each other as people, recognizing mistakes, and choosing to move forward. What made this reunion so powerful was how genuine it felt. There was no performance, no script, just two men who had lived through complicated times, grown wiser with age, and were now sitting face to face, finally talking about what had once kept them apart. It was a reminder that even old wounds can heal, and that sometimes all it takes is one honest conversation to rebuild what was lost. If you enjoyed this look into behind-the-scenes drama, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from your favorite TV shows and celebrities.